조홍길 교우님께서 나오셔서 복음의 가치라는 제목을 가지고 복음 말씀을 주시겠습니다.
Good morning. Today, I'm going to deliver the sermon first in English, the whole sermon, and then I will give you a little bit shorter version of the sermon in Korean. So the story of Zacchaeus is, again, a very familiar one to all of us. But I want to emphasize that the story develops, it has a great development, should I say, from a what seems to be just an ordinary event or ordinary, let me rephrase that. So there's a great change of heart of Zacchaeus. So the state of his heart at the beginning of the story is very, very different by the time we get to the end of the story. And we're going to go through verse by verse and see how that change comes about. So the setting of the story is that Jesus is entering Jericho and he's passing through it. And him being a famous and popular person amongst the Jews, there's a huge crowd around him. And there was a man named Zacchaeus who was a chief tax collector. And for those of you who are not familiar, tax collectors, they collected tax not for the good of their own people, but this was tax to be paid to the emperor of the Roman Empire. And Zacchaeus was the chief of those tax collectors. And amongst the Jews, the tax collectors were viewed as sinners because they weren't really helping their own people, but they were helping the Romans take advantage of their own people. And verse 3, it says, he was trying to see who Jesus was, but on the account of the crowd, he could not, because he was short in stature. So here, where is his heart at? At this moment, there's nothing much other than the curiosity. He's heard about a man called Jesus and how he may or may not have performed these miracles. He's never witnessed it. So he's very curious to see who this man is. So he goes out and try to see for himself. And verse 4, before we go on to verse 4, but because he was short in stature, he could not get through to see Jesus. But I think there's more to it than his stature. For him not being able to get past the crowd, I think because he was considered a sinner, and all the crowd that was surrounding Jesus were just regular Jews who were, just sincerely following Jesus, and they thought Jesus was going to save them and bring a new kingdom of Jews, restore the kingdom of the Jews, and restore Israel instead of the Roman Empire. So the people knew Zacchaeus because he's a chief tax collector, and probably that's why people would not let Zacchaeus through the crowd so that he could see Jesus. And moving on to verse 4, it says, so he ran ahead and climbed the sycamore tree to see him because he was going to pass that way. And here the key word or key phrase, I think, is climb a sycamore tree. And Zacchaeus, being a chief tax collector, when I imagine what kind of person he is, I sort of imagine my boss at work, right? So my boss in my previous job was very, how should I say, not in a fit condition to climb a tree. And I'm probably pretty sure that being a chief collector, like going to the gym was not his thing. But the fact that he was willing to climb a tree to see this person, we see another development in his heart or emotion. It started off as a curiosity thing, but now it has developed into something more to even urge him to climb a tree. And verse 5, it says, when Jesus came to that place, Jesus looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today. So he hurried down and was happy to welcome him. Here, Zacchaeus was not expecting Jesus to come and look at him, let alone call him by his name. So he was caught off guard. But how did he react? He hurried down and he was very happy to welcome him. Why would he be so happy? Why would he welcome Jesus into his house? This tells the state of Zacchaeus' heart and mind, where although he was rich and he had all the access to the worldly goods, but he knew that he was a sinner, and he knew that he was considered a sinner. And Jesus, being the Messiah, as all the people say back at that time, he was totally not expecting him to call a sinner by his name. So when his name was called, that brought another change of his heart, that really touched him. And perhaps Jesus calling him by his name, stirred his heart, and he saw a glimpse of hope that maybe his sins will be forgiven. If I accept this man into my house, maybe he could again become a part of his own community and society. But what happens next? In verse 7, all who saw it began to grumble and said, he has gone to be the guest of one who is a sinner. So we see the crowd is condemning this man as a sinner, and they're very unhappy that Jesus, who is the Messiah, who they consider to be a Messiah, is going to a sinner's house. And what does Zacchaeus feel at that moment? He was very happy at the prospect that Jesus might come into his house. But now, because all the people are murmuring and saying Jesus should not go into his house, he's scared, he's afraid, and he's threatened that Jesus may not come into his house, that he may not get the chance to get back into his own people. So what does he do next in light of this? Verse 8, Zacchaeus stood there and said to the Lord, look, half of my possessions, Lord, I will give to the poor, and if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will pay back 4 times as much. So in this moment, this moment was a very, very significant moment, because he was being threatened. He was at the verge of either gaining this opportunity or losing this opportunity. He had to decide how he was going to go about it. But what he did was, okay, there's Jesus. I really, really want Jesus to come into my house. What do I have to do? And he decided that he would give away half his possessions and pay back 4 times as much if he's done any wrong to anybody. What does this mean? It means that he has let go of the master who was the Lord of his life until that point. But by giving away all his possessions, the master of his life changed from wealth and power and money to Jesus Christ. That's why this is so significant. And we can see this scene has a great resemblance to a scene from Matthew chapter 13:44, which says, "The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which someone found and hid. Then in his joy he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field." Do you see the resemblance? This person who found out that there's a great treasure buried under this field, he sold everything he has and bought this field because he felt that the treasure hidden in this field was much greater. And this is exactly what Zacchaeus did at this moment, because the time he could have with Jesus Christ at his home was worth a lot more than all his possessions. So he let go of the possessions and he chose to invite Jesus in. And here I want to ask all of you and all of us to really think and ask yourselves, how much is the gospel worth to you? How much is Jesus worth to you? Are you willing to let go of half your possessions? I don't know how much you have. For me, it's easier because I don't have much. But I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people in this in this room who feels, I don't know, can I really let go of half my possessions? And for every wrong I did to anybody, can I repay that person?
성가대 귀한 찬양 감사드립니다. 오늘은 우리 교회에 출석하고 있는 현재 보스턴 신학대학의 first year 공부하고 있는 조은길 형제입니다. 우리 조은길 형제는 어머니 아버지가 미셔너리로 그 인도에 특별히 히말라야 그 마운틴 근처에서 이렇게 오랜 동안 선교 사역을 하셨는데 그 아들로 인도에서 고등학교까지 살았고 그 다음에 한국에 들어와서 한동대학교를 졸업하고 그리고 삼성에 취직을 해서 몇 년 일을 하다가 특별한 하나님의 부르심을 받고 여기 보스턴 그 신학대학에 와서 공부를 하게 됐습니다. Today's preacher is Mr. Cho. Actually, he has grown up in India with his father and mother, who is a missionary in India for many years near Himalaya mountain. And he graduated at the Handong University, and also he was a Samsung man for a while, and he came to the United States for study, School of Theology in Boston University. One thing is I heard from him, he never preached in front of people. This is the first time preaching on his life. 우리 미스터 조, 여기 오세요. 우리 박수로 환영하세요.
I first of all want to thank God for giving me the opportunity to stand here before you all to be used as His tool to preach His word. It's such an honor, and as Pastor Han mentioned, that this is my first time ever in my life. So I'm nervous. I'm not sure if you can tell. I'm nervous, and if I do make a mistake, or if I fumble or mumble, please have mercy on me. Yes, I would like to start with a short prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for giving today, your Sunday, and personally giving me this opportunity to stand here before you and to be used as a humble tool for you. I pray that your word and your truth may be spoken through my mouth, and may the people who listen to your words really take these words within their heart and let it change their lives. Lord, I pray that you would be with us until the end of service. Thank you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So the title of today's sermon is, which is easier? This is the question that I had when I read today's passage. So that's why I titled it this way. And today's sermon will require you to use your imagination a lot in order to get us to the truth. And the passage we read today is a really popular one, and many pastors have preached using this passage. And all the sermons that I've heard, the lesson, the focus of this passage has always been on the four men who carried the paralyzed man up to the roof. They dug a hole and then lowered the man, and Jesus really said, "You've done great," and that's always been the focus. But today, the focus is going to be different. 네, 그래서 오늘 성경 말씀은 어느 것이 쉽겠느냐라는 제목으로 제가 말씀을 전해드릴 텐데요. 많은 목사님들께서 이 말씀으로 이 성경 구절을 통해서 말씀을 전해주셨는데, 항상 그때는 중풍병자를 데리고 온 이 사람들에 항상 초점이 맞춰져 있었습니다. 그런데 오늘은 저희가 그 초점이 아닌 다른 그것을 중심으로 저희 말씀을 전해드리고자 합니다. So all the sermons were good, but at the end of each of those sermons, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing, something was incomplete. And I wondered why I felt that way, and I realized that there was within the passage there was something that I couldn't reconcile myself with. 그래서 이때까지 들었던 설교들은 모두 훌륭한 말씀이셨습니다. 저에게 많은 교훈을 주었고, 그런데 제가 항상 느꼈던 것은 그런 설교 뒤에 공허함, 뭔가 허전한, 뭔가 완성되지 않은 그런 느낌을 많이 받았습니다. 제가 그것이 왜 그럴까라고 생각을 해보았더니 저희 본문 말씀 중에 제가 이해하지 못하는 부분이 있었습니다. So that part which I couldn't reconcile myself with was the question Jesus asked the teachers who were present there: which is easier, to say to this paralyzed man, your sins are forgiven, or to say, get up, take your mat and walk? 그래서 제가 의아해했던 그 부분은 바로 예수님께서 거기 모여있던 서기관들이 예수님에게 이제 하신 말씀입니다. 중풍병자에게 내 죄가 사함을 받았도다 라고 하는 것이, 일어나 내 생을 가지고 걸어가라 라고 하는 말 중에 어느 것이 쉽겠느냐 이렇게 말씀하셨는데, 근데 그 부분이 제가 잘 이해가 안 됐던 부분이거든요. 그래서 What do you think about this question? What do you think is the right answer? Do you feel in yourself that what Jesus said was easier is actually easier? For me, I felt like get up, take your mat and walk was a lot easier thing to say than your sins are forgiven. 네, 그래서 성도님들은 어떻게 생각하시는지, 예수님께서는 첫 번째 너의 죄가 사하여졌도다라고 하는 게 더 쉽다라고 그런 의도에서 말씀을 하셨는데, 저는 이게 과연 그게 더 쉬운가, 내 삶을 들고 걸어 나가라고 하는 게 훨씬 쉬운 게 아닌가, 이 부분이 저를 항상 좀 괴롭혔거든요. 네. 그런데 So it wasn't until recently that I that I was finally able to make sense of this question. And that is what I'm going to be sharing with you today. 그래서 이 질문에 대한 답을 제 궁금증을 해소한 게 얼마 전, 한 2주 전입니다. 그래서 그 부분에 대해서 제가 오늘 여러분들과 함께 나누고 싶습니다. So in order for me to understand this question, why the answer had to be what it had to be, I had to really take a closer look into the whole situation itself. And in the process, I found a couple of interesting and quite odd things. And through these interesting but odd things that I noticed, I was able to find some insight. 그래서 이 질문에 대한 답을 얻기 위해서는 제가 성경 말씀을 조금 더 깊게, 그리고 그 사람들의 입장이 되어서 좀 생각을 해볼 필요가 있었습니다. 그러던 중에 제가 여러 가지 부분을, 좀 의아한 부분을 발견을 했는데, 그 의아한 부분들을 발견한 것을 생각하다 보니까 보면서 이 부분을 이해하게 되었습니다. So first, let's read Mark 2, verse 3 again. Some men came, bringing to him a paralyzed man, carried by 4 of them. So, do you notice anything odd in this sentence? 네. 마가복음 2장 3절 보시면, 네, 사람들이 한 중풍병자를 4사람에게 되어가지고 예수께로 올세 라고 했습니다. 여기서 뭐가 좀 이상하지 않습니까? 그래서 제가 이상하다고 느꼈던 부분은 이 4사람입니다. 4사람. 뭐가 의아할까? So notice how there were 4 men who brought this paralyzed man to Jesus. The odd thing that I noticed was, where are the family members? Right? So here's this man who's been paralyzed, and family members in order to be seen. So usually if you're sick, you would expect your family members to be by their side every single moment, right? To help them, guide them. And this situation here, the 4 men brought the paralyzed man to be healed. More the reason for the family members to be there. 네, 그래서 중풍병자의 가족이 아닌 이 4사람이 데려왔다는 것이 좀 의구심을 가지고 4 times as much. I really hope that the gravity of this incident really sink into your hearts. But once Zacchaeus does that, and once Zacchaeus makes that decision, then Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house because he too is son of Abraham. And what does this mean? At the beginning of the sermon, I told you that if you are a tax collector, you were not considered a part of the society. He was not considered a son of Abraham, where all the other Jews were. And Jesus saying that he too is a son of Abraham, it means that his sins, which caused him not to be a son of Abraham, were forgiven, and he was reinstated as son of Abraham. And verse 10, for the Son of Man came to seek out and save the lost. Here we could focus on the word the lost. It doesn't say Gentiles or Jews, but Son of Man came to seek out the lost. What does that mean? It means all of the Jews, all of the Gentiles, all of us were and always is a children of God, no matter what, no matter how great you think your sins are, no matter what other people tell you who you are a child of God, and there's nothing that can stop you from being from the status.
Amen.
And so instead of finding, oh, I came to save the Gentiles, Jesus says, I came to seek out and save the lost. And as I conclude the sermon, I want all of us to think again, in our lives, we have moments like this, the moment that Zacchaeus is facing in the story. Our lives are, we live our lives moment after moment where we have to make a decision whether to choose God, choose Jesus, choose gospel, or something other than God, Jesus, and the gospel. And how can we ensure that we always make the right decision? Because that's how we can live as true Christians. I think the only way to do that is to really think about it, really meditate on how much really is the gospel worth to me, that I wouldn't even have to think about how much the gospel is worth when we come to that moment of decision. If we have it in our hearts, engraved in our hearts, how great this gospel is, then it should not be a problem for us when we have to make a decision. So I hope that we all really assign much time thinking about it, meditating on it, and be able to make the right choice in the days to come until we face the Lord Jesus Christ in heaven.
Amen.
And now I will repeat the sermon in Korean. 제가 이제 영어로 하면서 많은 분들께서 큰 맥락은 이제 잡으셨을 거라고 생각을 하고 좀 빠르게 다시 설교를 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 이 삭개오의 스토리는 저희가 많이 알고 있는 이야기지만 오늘은 저희 초점을 삭개오의 마음이 시작과 끝에 어떻게 크게 변화가 있었는지를 다시 짚어보고자 합니다. 지금 예수님께서 여리고 성으로 입성하시면서 사람들이, 많은 군중들이 예수님을 감싸고 있습니다. 그때 삭개오라는 세리장이 있는데요. 세리장은 유대인 중에서 아주 죄인으로 낙인이 찍힌 사람입니다. 왜냐하면 세리장은 그 유대인들로부터 세금을 걷어서 유대인들을 위해 쓰는 게 아니라 로마 황제를 위해서 황제에게 바쳤기 때문입니다. 그래서 세리장은 유대인의 한 명으로 취급을 받지 못했습니다. 그런데 이제 예수님이 지나가실 때 그 세리장이지만 예수님에 대해서 많이 듣지 않았습니까? 그래서 예수님이 어떤 사람인지 호기심이 있어서 보러 나갔습니다. 단순히 호기심으로 시작하였으나 군중을 뚫고 예수님 볼 수가 없어서 저 밑으로 달려가서 나무에 올라갔습니다. 이 나무에 올라갔다는 게 무슨 뜻일까요? 나무에 올라갔다는 것은 우리가 좀 상세히 생각해 봐야 될 것이, 삭개오란 사람은 세리장으로서 돈이 많고 음식이 많고 아침, 점심, 저녁 이렇게 먹을 수 있는 아주 돈이 많은 사람이었고 그만큼 누리는 게 많았습니다. 그래서 저는 세리장을 생각을 하면 제가 다니던 회사 이제 부장님이 생각이 나는데요. 부장님이라 하면 배가 좀 이렇게 나오시고 이렇게 거구가 있으신 이런 부장님이었는데요. 그분이 나무로 올라간다. 상상을 할 수가 없고 나무가 올라가는 모양을 상상하면 웃음이 사실 나옵니다. 그런데 아마 그런 비슷한 책으로 가졌을 이 세리장이, 이 삭개오가 나무로 올라갔다는 것은 그의 마음에 무언가 호기심 이상의 무언가가 있었다는 겁니다. 그래서 호기심으로 시작한 어떤 것이 그 이상의 것으로 지금 발전을 한 것입니다. 그리고 5절에 예수께서 그곳에 이르사 우러러 보시고 이르시되 삭개오야 속히 내려오라 내가 오늘 내 집에 유하여 하겠다 하시니 급히 내려와 즐거워하며 영접하거늘 라고 했습니다. 그 말은 삭개오는 전혀 예수님이 자기를 알 거라고 상상을 못했습니다. 왜냐하면 모든 사람들이 사실 이 사람을 무시하면서 살았거든요. 그러나 그 중에 메시아라고 불리는 예수님이 설마 나한테 와서 나의 이름을 불러주실까? 이거는 정말 상상할 수 없었던 일이지만 그 일이 이 자리에서 일어났습니다. 그때 얼마나 삭개오가 깜짝 놀랐을까요? 아마 나무에서 떨어질 뻔했을 겁니다. 네. 그러나 그 예수님이 나의 마음을 나의 이름을 불러주셨을 때 그 삭개오의 마음이 동했을 겁니다. 왜냐하면 아무도 나를 알아주지 않았으나 모든 사람이 인정하는 이분이 나의 이름을 불러주셨다. 삭개오는 그 전부터 알고 있었습니다. 자신이 얼마나 큰 죄를 저질렀고 남들이 죄인이라고 생각할 때 본인도 사실은 그걸 인정할 수밖에 없었습니다. 그러나 애써 무시하면서 나는 그래도 돈이 있으니까 저 사람들보다 잘 사니까 이러면서 자신을 위로했을 겁니다. 그러나 예수님께서 자신 불러주셨을 때 너무 기뻐서 급히 내려와서 예수님을 맞을 준비를 했습니다. 예수님을 나의 집으로 모시면 내가 구원을 받을 수 있겠구나. 내가 죄인이 아니라고 칭함을 받을 수 있겠구나. 그런데 그때였습니다. 7절에 무사람이 보고 수군거려 가로되 저가 죄인의 집에서 유하러 들어갔도다 하더라. 그래서 거기에 모였던 군중들이 예수님이 삭개오의 집에 들어간다는 게 너무 불만이 많았습니다. 그래서 막 수근수근거리기 시작했습니다. 그때 삭개오의 마음은 어땠을까요? 그 기쁨으로 순간 차올랐던 그 마음이 불안으로 다시 휩싸였습니다. 예수님을 모셔만 가면 내가 뭔가 나의 삶이 변할 수 있을 것 같은데 그런데 이 사람들이 이렇게 말하면 예수님이 안 오시면 어쩌지? 나의 구원의 기회가 사라지면 어쩌지? 라고 생각을 했을 겁니다. 그래서 삭개오는 결정을 해야 했습니다. 8절에 보면 삭개오가 서서 주께 여짜오되 주여 보시옵소서 내 소유의 절반을 가난한 자들에게 주겠사오며 만일 네 것을 토색한 일이 있으면 4배나 갚겠나이다 라고 아주 큰 결정을 내리고 그 자리에서 얘기를 합니다. 이것은 무엇을 의미하는 건가요? 이 순간은 바로 삭개오가 그 전에 주인으로 모셨던 재물과 권력을 내려놓고 예수님을 자신의 주인으로 모시는 바로 그 순간이었습니다. 그 순간 그 결정을 내렸을 때 예수님께서 이렇게 말씀하십니다. 예수께서 이르시되 오늘 구원이 내 집에 이르렀도다. 이 사람도 아브라함의 자손이로다. 그래서 죄인이라 칭함을 받았을 때 많은 유대인들이 이 사람은 아브라함의 자손이 아니다 라고 얘기를 했습니다. 그러나 예수님께서 삭개오가 이 결정을 내린 것을 보시고 이제는 이 사람도 아브라함의 자손이다 라고 말씀을 해주셨습니다. 그 말은 그가 갖고 있던 죄를 사해 주셨다는 뜻입니다. 그리고 10절에 인자에 온 것은 잃어버린 자를 찾아 구원하려 함이니라 라고 했습니다. 과연 이것은 무엇을 뜻할까요? 잃어버린 자란 무엇을 뜻하는 걸까요? 이것은 우리 삭개오를 포함한 저희 모두가 잃어버린 자라는 뜻입니다. 우리가 이방인이어서 아예 하나님을 알 수 없는 존재라는 것이 아니라 언제나 하나님의 자녀였고 단지 잃어버린 하나님의 자녀였기 때문에 예수님께서 우리를 찾으러 오셨다는 겁니다. 만약에 이 자리 가운데 제가 이런 거 많이 들었습니다. 나는 너무 큰 죄를 졌기 때문에 교회 갈 수가 없어. 내가 하나님께 나아갈 수가 없어. 나의 죄는 너무 커. 나는 하나님의 자녀가 될 수 없어 라고 말하면서 교회에 나오지 못하는 사람들 많이 보았는데 이 구절을 보면서 혹시라도 여러분 또는 여러분 주변 사람들 중에 그런 마음을 품고 있는 사람이 있다면 꼭 말씀을 전해주시기 바랍니다. 예수님은 잃어버린 자를 찾으러 오셨다. 그것이 바로 당신이다. 당신이 잃어버린 자라고 꼭 말씀해 주시기 바랍니다. 그리고 이 설교를 마무리를 하면서 우리가 어떻게 하면은 이런 삭개오와 같은 예수님을 나의 주인으로 모시는 결정을 왜 순간 내릴 수 있을까요? 그것은 그냥 되는 게 아닙니다. 결정의 순간이 왔을 때 그때 생각을 해보고 아 예수님이 100불보다 더 많은가? 가치가 많은가? 1000불보다 많은가? 10,000불이면? 100,000불이면? 100,000불이면 어떡하지? 그때 고민하면 너무 늦습니다. 이게 100불이면 쉽지만 금액이 올라가면 올라갈수록 예수님을 택하기가 너무 어려워지는 게 사실입니다. 저희 모두가 사실 그거를 아마 인정하실 거라고 생각하는데요. 그러면 어떻게 해야 그 순간이 왔을 때 내가 올바른 결정을 내릴 수 있을까? 방법은 한 가지밖에 없는 것 같습니다. 저희가 그 순간이 오기 전에 미리 예수님을 내가 말하는 복음은, 교회에서 말하는 그 복음은 과연 얼마의 가치가 있는가 미리 생각을 하고 미리 결정해놓고 마음에 새겨두지 않으면 그 순간이 왔을 때 올바른 결정을 내리기란 너무나도 어려운 것 같습니다. 그래서 여러분 모두 여기 계신 모든 성도님들께서 이 말씀을 묵상하시면서 나에게 복음은 정말 얼마나 가치 있는 것인가 묵상하시고 앞으로 또 하루하루 살아가실 때 매 순간 예수님을 또 하나님을 우리의 복음을 선택할 수 있는 여러분들이 되실 수 있게 바랍니다. 감사합니다.